Solar value 47, the 8 of Spades. The 8 of Spades is the Saturn card on the Jupiter line. So it's a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction and brings in two complementary energies because Jupiter expands and Saturn restricts. Yes, they're complementary because both are necessary, because infinite expansion is absolutely useless without clear boundaries, because only boundaries, only order and structure make things measurable, and only when we can measure things, we can rely on them. And when we can rely on them, we can place them in our subconscious because they are reliable, and we can direct our conscious mind to new endeavors. So yes, Jupiter and Saturn are indeed compatible. And once again, it's the mind that creates it, because the mind can also create the opposite. But in this case, we're not going to do that. What we find with the 8 of Spades is a very interesting and also challenging constellation, because not only do we find two aces on the Jupiter line, but when we turn to the Saturn line, we find all the odd cards. So that makes for a lot of change, a lot of variety in the life of the 8 of Spades. And the 8 of Spades as a number in the suit is a very strong card because it's the power card and it's in the suit of earth, of lifestyle, of work, of spirituality. So bring those together and you can get an image or a picture of how strong that person really is by virtue of their birth card. However, when we look at the planetary cards, a different picture, was it image? Image? Image sounds better. And a different image reveals itself. And that poses certain challenges for that Ace of Spades. It's one of the most powerful cards in the deck. It's a symbol of endurance, mastery, and karmic responsibility. It's the worker, the spiritual warrior, and the quiet powerhouse. For those born under this card, life offers no shortcuts, but through effort and self-awareness, they gain an unshakable inner authority. Effort, 8, and Spades, and self-awareness. Because with the power comes awareness of the power, because power itself can be abused if you're not aware. So the awareness is absolutely necessary in order to use the power and to use it for good and not for worse. The Ace of Hearts that we encounter in the Mercury position reveals a curious and a passionate mind, constantly chasing the spark of new emotional connections. So here you already see the departure from that steady, reliable workhorse and the workaholic in a way that the 8 of Spades is. This placement drives a strong need to understand the deeper motivations behind affection, attraction, and intimacy. Ace of Hearts, the deeper motivations behind affection, attraction, and intimacy. Understand, because it's the Mercury card. Not in a sentimental way, but through mental inquiry. For the 8 of Spades, it adds a youthful emotional hunger behind an otherwise stoic facade. But it also calls for discernment. Not every desire is worth the pursuit. Discernment. And it's difficult for an ace, because the ace's energy is like, I'm going out. I'm here to make all the experiences that I can possibly make and can possibly fit in. But as we know, as we go through the suits and therefore the seasons, once you sow and once you nurture and fertilize, and when it comes to harvest, then certain things are not actually worth the pursuit. Are not the harvest is not to your liking, so certain elements will be chucked out of the harvest, because not all produce, not all results are the same, hold the same value. And that's where the discernment comes in, because not everything that you have created in spring and in summer is then actually worth the processing for whatever purpose it is meant for. So for the 8 of Spades, it needs to learn to discern its emotional connections and the way it operates mentally, which is very much tied, obviously, to that Ace of Hearts energy. Initiating new connections, yeah, like again and again and again. I need this, I need this, and this. But if you don't have discernment, if you can't step back and remove yourself from the situation, then you may get lost in a way in a sequence of new emotional beginnings, but none of them actually deriving any value for you, if that's said correctly. None of them actually, you derive no value, no reasonable value from any of those connections. That's the risk. This continues when we come into Venus, and once again we have a Hearts card in Mercury and we have a Diamonds card in Venus. So we would like to have a Hearts card in Venus and we would like to have a Diamonds card in Mercury, but once again, same card reversed. We had King of Hearts, King of Diamonds, 7 of Hearts, 7 of Diamonds, 4 of Hearts, 4 of Diamonds. So not exactly new to us, this constellation. And here we find the Ace of Hearts and Ace of Diamonds. So Venus, it suggests someone who values independence and entrepreneurial energy in relationships. Independence Ace, entrepreneurial energy, because the Ace of Diamonds says, I desire wealth. And it does so in relationships. So everything has a value, and they approach relationships with a little bit of naivety, but also with a confidence. But the confidence and the naivety, I'm taking the lead. That's Ace energy. I'm creating. I'm the number one. But at the same time, the number one is actually lacking all the experience that you would get from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. So that's where the naivety comes in, or the unknowingness rather than the naivety in relationships. This card brings a desire for value-based bonds, groups that grow, produce, and serve a mutual purpose. It reinforces the Eight of Spades' need to build relationships that respect their time, work ethic, and long-term vision. The challenge here is not to let ambition overshadow emotional reciprocity. In a way, it's a nice one because there's already that the overarching theme of value in a relationship, so it's good. For the Ace, it's nice because they keep initiating, but at the same time, they also need to step back and look at what they have initiated and where their initiations have led to. Because at the end of the day, what's the point of initiating if you don't sort of take stock, if you don't create an inventory of what you have created and are able to evaluate that which you have created? And obviously that is necessary in a relationship. And that's a reminder here for that Eight of Spades with an Ace of Diamonds in Venus. A desire for value-based bonds. So you can picture that everything for that Eight of Spades in relationships has a value. And that can also be tricky because sometimes it's not so clear-cut. Sometimes it's not so easy to understand the value of that which is happening. But then again, the Eight of Spades is making like first steps in that field, and will encounter many opportunities where it can learn and where it can then progress in that sequence, from 2 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up the Diamonds suit. Then we do a lane change and we enter the so-called dreaded, not so dreaded, but very versatile Saturn line. Saturn likes the order and structure, and on the Saturn line we find all those odd cards. And here it's the Mars card for the Eight of Spades. It's the Queen of Diamonds. So there's some court card energy in Mars. Queen of Diamonds likes to live the big life. And the Mars energy ensures that Queen of Diamonds is not to be, how do you say this in English? I don't know, pushed under. In German, we call it untergebuttert. So if you're not being suppressed, it's a court card. It'll make sure that it gets what it wants. But it can come on too strongly under Mars, so it has to pay attention. Mars with the Queen of Diamonds creates a powerful internal drive to manage, protect, and control resources, including one's own energy and influence. There's a refined strength here, a sense of knowing how to lead without barking orders. This queen brings grace into ambition and tempers the often harsh edges of the Eight of Spades willpower. But it also challenges them not to become emotionally cold in the pursuit of material control. That's the downside of that, becoming emotionally cold in the pursuit of material control. You know, that Mars energy, and then that Queen of Diamonds that certainly knows how to preserve value, but also likes, because it's a queen, it likes to spend. And that can lead to the material side to become overwhelming. And remember, in connections, Ace of Diamonds in Venus, now sort of another queen, but at the end of the diamond suit in Mars, that certainly makes for an interesting combination for the Eight of Spades, but also has obviously plenty of positive qualities. Internal drive to manage, protect, and control resources, which obviously sort of fits beautifully into the Eight of Spades native quality, which is about power, which is about work, which is about diligence, which is about reliability, dependability, a certain inflexibility and immovability here in the spade suit, and certainly with the eights as a number. But then on the positive side, the queen sort of, brings grace into ambition and tempers the often harsh edges of the Eight of Spades willpower. When we come to Jupiter, we find the Five of Hearts. And here, so this first pattern is emerging. Ace of Hearts in Mercury, now the Five of Hearts in Jupiter. Both numbers that are fairly self-centered, me, myself, and I. The one is that I desire love, and you have like a mental approach to that. But then your expansion on Jupiter, which brings in the blessings, we find also a self-centered card, because the five is the emotional adventurer. They're out for experiences in the mental realm. But here it adds the blessing, and obviously curse, of emotional freedom and adventure. There's generosity here, but it often shows up in the form of encouraging others to change, grow, or leave. But it often shows up in the form of encouraging others to change, grow, and leave, because that's eight energy, my way or the highway. And that is also supported by the ace or one's energy, my way or the highway. It's like me, myself, and I. Either you change or grow, or you leave, so it's like there's no discussion here. This dynamic sits at odds with the deeply committed energy of the Eight of Spades as a birth card, creating tension between loyalty and liberation. Ultimately, it teaches that freedom must be granted to others, even in love. And not just the self-centeredness, not that inherent fixedness of the eight, and then with that Ace of Spades in Mercury and the Ace of Hearts in Mercury and the Five of Hearts in Jupiter. But it's also nice to see how challenging situations arise, and those challenging situations are then allowing that native to grow with that very fixed and reliable and dependable energy of that Eight of Spades, that Five of Hearts, which is the emotional adventurer. The life becomes more colorful, it becomes more versatile, a little bit more restless, but on the positive side. And here, once again, it's the Jupiter card. So the Eight of Spades actually derives blessings from that energy. It benefits from it. And that's a reminder, because by definition, it's like, boom, boom, boom. I'm an eight. I've got the power, hold the power, and I'm not going to move an inch. And here it says, under Jupiter, actually be emotionally available, be restless, experiment, make new experiences. And that is, again, complemented in a positive way with that Ace of Hearts in Mercury. In Saturn, we find a 3. So here we find another 3. Once again, a constellation with 2 red cards next to each other and 2 black cards of the same number. So Ace of Hearts and Ace of Diamonds. And now we've got a 3 of Clubs and a 3 of Spades. Saturn, 3 of Clubs. And here it also means, that's 5 of Hearts in Jupiter already hinted at become emotionally flexible, versatile, open, communicative. And here under Saturn, which obviously loves the order and the structure, which the Eight of Spades has by definition, but here it says stay mentally flexible, stay mentally versatile. Three of Clubs, the Author's card, the card of the written and the spoken word, which benefits the Eight of Spades. So it needs to express itself. Express itself, maybe even about the emotional challenges that it encounters in its lifetime. Saturn brings structure to the Three of Clubs, asking the Eight of Spades to take responsibility for their ideas, expression, and mental habits. This is the writer's placement, or at least the one who is meant to document, explain, or interpret. There we go. There's discipline required here. Ideas alone aren't enough. The Eight of Spades must organize them, polish them, and share them, no matter how imperfect. Beautiful. I mean, written there exactly what I said before. You know, here it's a mental construct. In other words, process things mentally, process things on the emotional side because of that Ace of Hearts and Five of Hearts influence. And then bring versatility in there, bring creativity in there. Don't be too rigid. So it's about, you know, organizing under Saturn, your thoughts, your experiences, and then communicate them to others so that those experiences are of value to others and of benefit to others. Document, explain, or interpret. And when we look at the karma cards of that Eight of Spades, I'm going to show you the card itself, and at the bottom right corner you find two clubs cards, and the first karma card for that Eight of Spades is the King of Clubs. So it owes that King of Clubs something, and the King of Clubs obviously is the master of communication. But there, the Eight of Spades has shortcomings. At the same time, it gets support from the Six of Clubs, which is about honesty, compromise, balance, justice in communication. I mean, it could have a worse second karma card, but that hints at the importance of the mind and communication for the Eight of Spades being such a strong card, and then having those Ace of Hearts and Ace of Diamonds as their Mercury and Venus card. The Eight of Spades must organize them, polish them, and share them, no matter how imperfect. Ideas, expressions, and mental habits. That brings us to Uranus. And here we find a Three of Spades, another three. Once again, going back quickly, threes are mental cards, clubs is mental. So two karma cards, both in the club suit. And that, you know, shows the importance of honest communication, open communication, masterful communication, clear communication, but also with that element of variety and creative expression in there that may be difficult for that Eight of Spades native. In Uranus, once again, Three of Spades. The Eight of Spades has an unpredictable relationship with work, health, and personal growth. I love this. It gives me a smile here. Unpredictable relationship. This card is often misunderstood. It's not just indecision, but creative experimentation. It brings moments of restlessness where the path forward feels split between duty and desire. Duty Spades and the desire for variety, that is the three. The key is integration, allowing multiple identities or vocations to coexist without guilt. And the Eight of Spades is quite capable of that, with the Three of Spades now in Uranus anyway. So Uranus is also standing for, you know, sudden changes, more freedom, other people, groups of people, upheavals, breakdowns. All that energy is, in a way, conducive to the Three of Spades, because the Three of Spades is the artist's card. So it has that creative expressions. And creative expression always means that you are not tied to one thing and that you're holding on tight to one thing, but that you can handle different forms of expression. And different forms of expression are certainly created by the Uranian period and that quality. So whenever that comes, you have to be able to handle it. Yes, the Eight of Spades as a native has that fixed quality, But on the other hand, the 3 of Spades adds that creative and expressive and growth-oriented and versatile energy into the mix. And that certainly benefits the 8 of Spades. The key is integration, allowing multiple identities or vocations to coexist without guilt. So take on this other job if you find happiness in that versatility. If you find happiness in another job, then go for it, because you get full support here from the 3 of Spades in Uranus. Although moments of restlessness, where the path forward feels split between duty and desire. The 3 desires. Well, the aces desire, the 2 aces desire, the 2 threes don't make it exactly easier for that 8 of Spades. So here again, we had this with the 5 of Spades actually before, but here you've got the 8 of Spades, which is like very solid, boom, 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 very dutiful and bound and fixed and powerful. And then it gets a life path full of surprises, full of change, full of variety. Desire to manifest things on the emotional side, on the material side, and then so the creative variety on the mental side and on the spiritual side. Under Neptune, we find the 9 of Hearts. It's a semi-fixed card. Double Saturn position, but for the 8 of Spades, it is the Neptune card. So here we have deep, sometimes painful emotional wisdom, because the 9 of Hearts is about emotional endings. And obviously if as things come to an end over and over and over again, it hurts, but it also makes you wiser. This card is of letting go, of transcending personal need in service of a higher emotional truth. Higher emotional truth. The 9 of Hearts is the card of universal love. And Neptune says higher, expand, enter the spiritual realm, heal, develop visions, ideals, dreams. And yes, things can be better once the 8 of Spades embraces that 9 of Hearts energy under Neptune. It suggests karmic emotional cycles, past life connections, and profound spiritual lessons through love and loss. It adds depth, grace, and a soulful vulnerability beneath the strong surface. In a way, that 9 of Hearts is like opposed to that 8 of Spades. Because 8 of Spades is like so solid, so stoic, so reliable, so dependable, and so goals-oriented. Goals or actually ends, like, the goal. They want to finalize things. That's 8 energy, completion. And then comes the 9 with the release. So then the 9 is becoming aware of the 8 energy. But here, the Spades is the last suit, the Hearts the first suit. The 8 is about getting things done, making sure it's being done, and the 9 is about let it go. But the letting go is on the emotional side. And once again, 8 of Hearts in Mercury, with that desire, with that almost like preoccupation about I desire love. And in Venus, it says, actually, I desire wealth. And then they work for wealth, they may become overpowering, and that compromises their relationships. The card of letting go, of transcending personal needs in service of a higher emotional truth. And universal love is universal love. And under Neptune, which carries those universal energies, that 9 of Hearts is certainly well placed, and once again offsets some of that strict, self-centered, harsh, mental, and dutiful and diligent energies that the 8 of Spades has as a birth card, but also encounters on its path through life. And when it comes to the end of it, let go of emotions. It's not about frustration, not about disappointment. It's about universal love. Love everybody. People are different. They don't have your drive. They don't have your determination. They don't have your creativity. Let it be. Accept them as they are. And you'll find that life turns out, and do this before you end up, at the end of your life under Neptune, but do this as soon as possible. Finally, we come to Pluto, and under Pluto we find the card of negative thinking and the card of spiritual knowledge. And this is the 7 of clubs. And here the lifelong transformation is about mastering their mind. So it's, so if you apply your mind when you're working diligently and when you're very goal oriented, but mind is not just task focused, but it's also like step out of it. Don't just see the material side of it, which you are very geared for, but also see the spiritual side. 7. And understand that there's always another side to what you're doing, to what you're thinking, to what you're believing. And the 7 of clubs, being the card of spiritual knowledge, it obviously has the ability to turn inwards and to acquire within tremendous amount of knowledge, and it gives you the flexibility. And it also takes you away from the world without, which is like the world of power, because the power is often not used inwardly, but outwardly, because we were just having the inward one with the 7, and now it's the 8 with the power in the world without. But it's a constant reminder to go within and find more knowledge and find spiritual knowledge, because that helps you understand your life path, that helps you understand your DNA, your footprint, or fingerprint in this case, and helps you balance things out, especially if you're been given the rather challenging life path here, and if your cards are at odds with the actual quality of your birth card. So here the notes say it's not an easy placement. It speaks of confronting toxic thinking, dogma, or mental self-sabotage. But on the other side of that challenge is spiritual clarity and intellectual strength. It's the invitation to build inner peace through mental discipline, the final stage of their journey from struggle to spiritual mastery. Beautiful. 8 of Spades walks a road that not many would choose, one paved with labor, responsibility, and transformation, but the planetary cards reveal just how deep, complex, and spiritually rich their path truly is. From love to leadership and from loss to legacy, this is a life of meaningful impact, quietly earned and deeply felt. Again, challenging path, not an easy one, not one that one would choose, but it's those opposites that don't grind us down, but that get rid of all the stuff, all the unnecessary stuff, and that help us shine in life, no matter which card has been placed as our birth card, and no matter which card has been placed in the planetary sequence, and also in the planetary sequence, not just for life, but for every single year that we go through. We should use those energies from the high side. The reason why you're watching this is because you want to develop an understanding and deepen the understanding about cardology, and then apply it in your life. Because once again, the book has 52 pages, and each page has a different story to tell. And once you learn the story, once you learn from the story, you are able to handle it, and then you master your own life, and you ride on the high wave of those cards, and no matter which card you are, no matter which sequence you have inherited, you just make the best of it, and you are content, and you still stay flexible in your contentedness, and always able to end things, always able to embark on new journeys, and then create stability in the instability. And as you look at the cards, it's always odd, even, odd, even, odd, even. Learning, applying, moving, fixing, moving, fixing, moving, fixing. And that's beautiful how the great architect of the universe has created this structure, this system for us. All we have to do is apply it. As always, and again, birthdays are shown for the 8 of Spades. Note them down, have a look if it's you, or you may have seen it in the title already, or the description. If you desire consultation, feel free to contact me, always happy to assist. And once again, that is not necessary. That is totally voluntary. But what you should have is the app installed on your smartphone as a constant reference and guide through life. Because what I'm talking about here is just about your birth sequence. But now, every year, you've got different planetary cards, which means different qualities, different karma cards, and therefore much more than I could ever put into videos. But that's why we have the app. The app is available to you. Make use of it, and for a really, really small amount, you unlock all the premium features. That's it. Once again, thank you very much for your attention. Really appreciate it. And if there's anything else, let me know. Leave a comment if you so desire. Always looking forward to hearing from you. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video, and bye-bye.